You have a guy who's running purely as a front, and this is not the first time that he's done this, this George Demos guy. Where did he come from?
Well, it's very interesting. So we're in a Republican primary for Congress, polling ahead of an incumbent Democratic congressman. And we have this person running against us with millions of dollars coming to him from California Democrats. He actually has almost over 95% of his campaign funding is coming from California Democrats. And if you look at the donor list, these are people who donated to Obama, Clinton, Kerry, Pelosi, Boxer, Feinstein.
Wait. Isn't this one of these big donors very, very famous in progressive circles?
It was. So his father-in-law, who gave him $2 million and then bundled the other $150,000, is business partners with Paul Pelosi, Nancy Pelosi's husband.
So literally, this is Pelosi money coming into your district.
We have Paul Pelosi's business partner funding a Republican primary against us in the 1st Congressional District of New York.
Now, I forgot the timeline here. I know him and I know you, but you weren't sure that I knew him when you started talking about this on my radio show, and I said, you're talking about my buddy Lee over here. This guy has popped up in primaries in New York before.
3 times. This is the 3rd time. This is the 3rd time this guy's running. And look, it's his right. It's his right to try and run. But I think this is a really good example of why this whole Tea Party establishment labeling and all this back and forth isn't as cut and dry as a lot of people like to make it out to be oftentimes. Because, you know, just because the Republican Party supports somebody doesn't mean that it's a bad thing. Lee is running with the support of the Republican Party, but he also happens to be a principled conservative, somebody who's a credible candidate to run in that district, and somebody who has the ability to actually beat the Democrat, which is what we've been trying to do for the last 3 cycles.
Now, look, I don't like it when we're told this is the guy. Everyone's got to clear the field and get behind so-and-so.
Right.
If somebody wants to run, they legitimately want to debate their platform, debate their candidacy, that sort of thing, that's one thing. If they're only in it as a tactic to save a seat or steal a seat or spoil somebody else, that's completely different, and that's what seems like it's going on here.
No question. And there are people supporting us because I believe there are some people that get in elected office and they believe the best way to survive in politics is by being someone else. And I truly believe the best way to survive in politics is by being yourself. If you are conservative, if you are a constitutionalist, stick to your principles. People will respect you for that. The voters will reward you for that because they want someone who they know and they trust. And they trust people when they look at you in the eye, you go to their door, you ask them for their vote, and they can tell that you are that person that you say you are. And when you're elected saying, I'm going to do certain things, you follow through and do it. Because we have a lot of politicians who they'll go back to the voters 2 years later or 4 years later, and they'll come up with some terrible excuse as to why they got nothing done that they said they would get done. But give me 2 more years or 4 years, I'll get it done next time.
I don't understand why what did you get the first time around against Tim Bishop? It was like 42%, right?
Right.
You did really good as a very young candidate with no experience running.
Right.
Now he's an elected official.
Yeah, now you're a state senator. You'd think that the party would not want someone to, I mean, it's hard enough to get Republicans to get elected in New York.
They don't.
So how come the party's not exposing someone who's taking money from Nancy Pelosi's family to spoil the race?
Well, I can't speak for the party, but I know that the party is behind.
Put on your analyst hat for a second.
No, I mean the party is behind Lee, and let me tell you something. You know, the people are a lot smarter than the politicians often give them credit for. Which is the
I'm sorry. If you look at the website, if you look at his website, first of all, you'd think he's a conservative, and you think this guy voted for Obamacare, even though he's in the New York State Senate.
Well, but that's why you know Lee's running a very good campaign, and he's exposing them. People aren't going to be fooled. So you know,
and he's got friends in talk radio.
Exactly. You know, but you know, Demos is going to throw millions of dollars at this race. Lee's still going to win the primary, and obviously it's an unfortunate thing that we even have to go through this. We have to go through this process.
Well, you got to purge resources to beat him.
The fact of the matter is that Demos is completely out of step with the values of this district, and he thinks he's going to be able to buy his way with other people's money, people who are from California liberals, be able to buy his way into the nomination, but it's not going to work.
He doesn't even live in the district. He started renting a home in the district. He goes back to Manhattan. So he's run, yes, this is his 3rd time. He goes back to Manhattan in between. So he's never owned a home, never paid property taxes, never paid school taxes, grew up in Manhattan. And, you know, as people, when they go to vote, whether you're running on Long Island or in Nebraska, anywhere in the country, you want to elect people who are, you know, one of us. You want to be able to identify with that person because he is or she is your representative when you send them to Washington.
But at the end of the day, though, Lee's going to be a stronger candidate because he faced an opponent like
Yeah, but the tactic could be to make him spend time and money to fend off the primary, then have to raise more money for the general.
But this guy has been around. He's been a gadfly. He's been around long before he married this woman, long before he had this money. And
look where you are. Okay, you do talk radio. Now look where you are. This is. We're not doing American Idol here. Okay, some people might open up that Americans for a Conservative Direction fund and go, "That's a conservative group. Looks conservative to me. It says conservative." If you read a campaign, anybody can put together a campaign website. The question is. And I don't claim that people are ignorant. People are busy, okay? People are busy. They've got lives. If you're like, all right, let me just check this guy's website out. All right, says he wants to cut taxes, strong on defense, get the terrorists. All right, he seems like an all right guy, and he's got nice hair. He's all right. He's an all right guy to me. All they need is enough percentage of the people to think like that, and his life is twice as hard.
I think it's really the liberal playbook. They deflect, they spin, they say what polls well, regardless as to whether it's true or not. So we might have a good conservative proposal come out of Washington. It's introduced, and then the Democrats immediately, they'll start scaring seniors. They'll make low-income Americans think that they'll be thrown out on the street. That conservative gets punched in the nose, and then they cower.
But Nebraska is a very good example of how this actually works. You've got
I think
McConnell's
this blew up in McConnell's face.
It blew up in McConnell's face. They put all that money in. All right, you had two competing PACs putting money into this race, right?
And a three-way race.
In a three-way race. But the guy who was the principled conservative, the one who was in step with the people of Nebraska, he won by a double-digit margin. This wasn't even a close race.
And look, FreedomWorks, I mean, you got to give them credit for that. When they endorsed this guy, and they were like, wait a second. No, but you know, if you're a group like FreedomWorks and you're endorsing candidates all across the country, you have to accept that maybe once in a while you're going to get somebody who is not who you thought they were. And I think it's pretty amazing that they said, we're willing to admit we were wrong and join the Senate Conservatives Fund. I think once that happened, McConnell knew they had to pour the money in. They had to destroy Ben Sasse. They had a three-way race. All they had to do was get somebody else to get 33.1%, and he got 49%.
49% of the vote, and that's a great victory. Look, McConnell's going to win some of these, and the folks who are considered to be outsiders are going to win some of these. Are going to win some of these races, but that's the way the game is played. And unfortunately, we spend far too much time beating each other up, and not enough time beating up the likes of Obama and Pelosi and Reid.
And I think that is the key: is that when we move past these primaries, that we focus on the agenda of the Democrats, because every good proposal that's come up in the House, the president whispers into Harry Reid's ear. Harry Reid says this bill is dead on arrival in the Senate. The mainstream media then feeds into it, pours cold water on the conservative idea of the House. But now, if we gain control of the Senate, every good proposal we have will be on the president's desk. He can either sign it or veto it, but there's no more whispering into Harry Reid's ear.